For 55 years, the Center for Migration Studies of New York has been committed to the study of international migration, to the promotion of understanding between immigrants and receiving communities, and to public policies, which safeguard the dignity and rights of migrants and refugees. And this year has been no exception. Carrying forward the legacy of its Scalabrinian founders, CMS has connected a community of scholars, policy leaders, advocates, service providers, refugees, and immigrants devoted to understanding international migration and to evidence-based, human-centered public policies. CMS's premier social science journal, the International Migration Review, is the leading scholarly journal in the field of international migration, ethnic group relations, and refugee movements. For the second year in a row, an article from the journal won the Lewis Worth Best Article Award from the American Sociological Association's International Migration section. CMS's public policy journal, the Journal on Migration and Human Security, addresses the most pressing migration issues of the day with peer-reviewed, solution-oriented articles. This year, CMS Papers examines the integration and contributions of refugees resettled in the United States between 1987 and 2016. The 3.7 million persons in multi-year family-based visa backlogs, egregious challenges to the rule of law and refugee protection in the United States and globally, and the work of faith-based organizations with immigrants and refugees. Its work links credible research with timely public policy ideas and a core commitment to human rights, human dignity, and the common good. This year, the CMS Archive, a treasure trove of documents spanning 3 centuries that provides an intimate history of successive waves of U.S. immigrants and the groups that have served them, assisted more than 60 scholars in their research. In an era of misinformation, CMS is determined to provide accurate information about migrants, refugees, and immigrant communities. And for that reason, CMS remains an authoritative source for policymakers and journalists. In 2019, its work and experts have appeared, often repeatedly, in more than 200 media outlets in the United States and abroad. CMS's data on the undocumented population, temporary protected status recipients, and refugees, for example, has been cited by the New York Times, the Wall Street Journal, the Associated Press, NPR, The Atlantic, CNN, and many other news sources. Over the last 8 years, CMS has connected scholars, students, policymakers, the press, civic and faith leaders, and immigrants and refugees in 75 cutting-edge events. In addition, its experts have spoken in roughly 3 times that number of events organized by other institutions. Earlier today, for example, CMS offered its annual academic and policy symposium around the issue of border control and refugee protection in the United States and globally. In August, it hosted a conversation on the Immigration Reform and Control Act of 1986, and it offered a webinar on its research about the impact of U.S. immigration enforcement policies on faith-based organizations working with immigrants and refugees. Its 3-day Catholic Immigrant Integration Initiative conference in February of this year provided an important forum for examining the work of distinct faith-based institutions with immigrants. CMS is part of a wider community, one rooted in Catholic social teaching and the values of the Scalabrini congregation. It is a community that believes in the God-given dignity, rights, and equality of all people, an academic and public policy community that is committed to an evidence-based analysis and exchange of ideas. CMS's work is valued by an advocacy community that is unwavering in its cry for justice. CMS not only lifts up the perspectives of migrants and refugees, but it places their experience and expertise at the heart of its work. For 55 years, CMS has been committed to the study of international migration and to the promotion of understanding between immigrants and receiving communities. In an era of record numbers of forcibly displaced persons and extraordinary attacks on refugee protection and the rule of law, CMS has redoubled its commitment to promoting public policies that protect the dignity and rights of migrants and refugees, and to evidence-based policies that benefit migrants, families, and their broader communities.